Yeah, back on the show. Hey.
Okay, we're live, guys.
This is Talk Radio 680, WCBM and WCBM.com. Now more of the Jimmy Mathis Show, brought to you by Bread and Circuses.
But you were part of that process as well. You said absolutely. Yes. Yes. Yes.
I said you need to get in strong, hard, and early. You disagree with me.
You guys are shuffling money at him. You're going to continue to do it?
And I hope that we can early on and we thought to win the game and to give back home all the help we could give them so that we would have a unified effort going into a general election.
What Steny Hoyer is saying, again, I apologize for the quality of the audio, but it's what we have. Steny Hoyer is saying that we, meaning the political elite, we are smarter than you being the American people.
And that is what they think.
He is saying that, yeah, the fix, Tyrone, the fix is in, and what is most important right now is for us to win a general election and not get tied up with the nuances of a primary, because there's a whole reason why we don't operate on a popular vote to begin with, okay? And I mean, because people, you can't let the American people decide the outcome of elections.
Sit down and be a good boy, and that way we can have the status quo, and nobody rocks the boat.
Right. So Colorado's 6th district, which is what this is focusing on, is Republican held.
It is.
Has been for years, but the Republican holds it at 51%.
Okay, so this is one of the seats that they're looking at that they can flip. Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, she well, first of all, some progressives, obviously progressive Democrats, are calling for Steny Hoyer to resign. Of course, that's not going to happen. Nancy Pelosi backing Mr. Hoyer, quote, in terms of candidates and campaigns, I don't see anything inappropriate with what Mr. Hoyer was engaged in, a conversation about the realities of life in the race as who can make it through a general election. This was Nancy Pelosi actually at her weekly news conference on Capitol Hill. It's interesting because I experienced this myself. I mean, forget the whole lawsuit thing and all that with Chris West. Before that, when I was going around just trying to get endorsements and public support from sitting elected, Republicans in the state, we don't want to get involved in. I don't want to get involved in a primary. And here's the funny thing. Not a whole lot of people are saying that Delegate Chris West is a conservative. Now, he may be a fine grandfather and involved in his church, whatever he does in his free time, but nobody portrayed him as a conservative. And the reason why I bring this up is because both parties have to have an honest conversation with themselves on what they stand for. And I think the Republican Party, locally, really, and nationally for that matter, does not believe and embrace conservatism. And even if maybe at cocktail parties they do a little bit, they're not willing to actually step out on the line to promote it. They would rather, at the local level and national level, they would rather preserve the status quo. And what's funny about it is, Chris West probably loses this election right now. And let's assume for a second that he doesn't. Let's assume that he squeaks this thing out. So what? So we have a rhino in there. Big deal.
Same way that Steny Hoyer is looking at that race. They want the strategic pickup. They're not concerned about what they're going to do with it after they get it. This is the dog who finally catches the car. What do I do now? And with someone like Chris West, when you have the opportunity to hold the line on a conservative position and you do not, that speaks volume.
I'm not being nasty to Delegate West. I don't think he could articulate what conservatism is.
Well, I think one of the problems we
No, you go ahead.
I think one of the problems that we have in the state is that, for the most part, the Republican Party does not do a good job of communicating what conservatism is. And if we had a message that we were taking out, and we had a message that we were had constructed well and had tested out some of these ideas and were beginning to push prior to a legislative session.
Right. Help smooth out the edges of the Republicans, its infrastructure spending, and which is why I took the time, bro. Nothing to do with Chris West, okay? And he don't want to face me. He don't want to face me in court, okay? He knew about the residency challenge going back a half a year ago, okay? He wanted Doug Riley to do his dirty work, okay? And now the Republicans probably look at this and look, hopefully the seat goes Republican, we'll see. But so what if it does? And this is the reason why I spent the whole first hour trying to lay out role of government, what a republic is, the problem of being, enslaved and indebted to the federal government, and federalism and everything else.
Right,
okay?
right. And again, that's important. But the other issue you have, okay, is one of human nature. You have these guys and ladies go to the state legislatures and and to DC, and they start to get hypnotized by offices, committee positions, okay?
Yeah.
And then you've got to really have some fortitude to be the guy that does not succumb to peer pressure and says, I'm going to be who I am, and I'm going to stand on my principles, and I don't care what you think about that. Because the Democrats certainly do that, okay? They don't care with what they feel and what they think. We don't do that as so-called conservatives.
But we do. We in the stands don't. But those that we send to serve, whether that is in Washington, D.C. or in Annapolis, they run on conservative principles.
Oh, yeah, they run on it.
And then all of a sudden they believe it's a huge liability to deliver on them. And look, Kevin, to your point, I get it. I do. You gentlemen, you run because you want to do good. I believe, look, sure, there's a little bit of an ego that comes along with running for office.
Especially these days. I mean, it's a thankless job.
Sure.
You know.
Especially running. Okay.
Right.
I mean, it's because of the establishment, because of the Chris West out there that want to drag you through the mud, want to pull you into court, want to ruin your family. Why? Because you have somebody that I never said anything about Chris West. Okay. But what did I want to do? I wanted to preach conservatism, and that scared the hell out of them.
Do you know what's going to thin the herd? You know what would thin the herd?
Yeah, the general election.
No, besides 2 words.
Yeah.
Term limits.
We have them, Ed.
No, we don't,
okay.
Jimmy.
It's called an election, all right? And
do you know how I am challenging an incumbent that has been in office for 44 years?
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
44 years.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
It's almost as long as I've been alive.
I was in the 1st grade when this man was elected to office.
But that speaks to a larger issue, Ed. I'd love to have term limits. I would. I'm not disagreeing with you that it wouldn't be better for society, but we didn't have term limits in the past. We didn't have term limits for the presidency. But George Washington
you had respect for the presidency is what you had. Respect for that.
For the office, and because people believed that it was representation for the people, by the people, not that it was the elitist and the great unwashed masses.
Right. And what you also did not have in previous generations was a bureaucracy as bloated as the one we have now. Term limits would actually empower those civil servants who stay in their seats, like Lois Lerner. Right. You think she ran roughshod over the rights of individuals with term limit, without term limits?
Right.
You put term limits in place, and people like her, they're going to be the power that's unseen and totally unaccountable. So what needs to happen is people, again, need to be educated, and we need to exercise our vote more judiciously and stop sending people to county seats, state seats.
Right.
For 40 years?
44 years.
I mean, good. 44 years.
44 years. 40 years as delegate, 4 years in the county council.
It's like, wow. I mean, and look, the founders never meant for these representative positions to be held that long. You were supposed, this was when we were an agrarian society.
Right.
You were supposed to, go down there, say your piece, maybe a couple of times, then you went back to your farm or your
They
business.
also didn't mean
Right.
for the government to grow to the size that it
Exactly.
is today. And the problem, the reason why you have so many of these unchecked bureaucrats that exist, it's just too big for
Right.
people to comprehend. And that's why, I go back to this. If we had sunset clauses
Right.
on our regs, whether they be federal or local, it doesn't matter. If we had to focus our attention on reviewing what currently exists, first of all, it would slow down the pace of government growth because it would make people spend time on reviewing the system that we currently have in place, which is way overdue to begin with. And we have people who are in state legislature or the state legislature for 40 years and don't understand programs that exist. We have people who are representatives in Congress and who are U.S. senators who don't understand the functions of government.
Oh, no doubt.
And
It's not even a cheap shot against them, Justin.
It's
When you're
not.
that inside the bubble and that
Yeah.
removed from the society that you're ruling over, which is what. And here's the other thing. Okay, this is a bunch of bull. Where anybody can go up and be president. Okay, hey, the great thing about America is anybody can run for office. Well, as Steny Hoyer so elegantly put it, no, you can't, because the fix is. The rest of these people see a chink in the armor and they see a citizen that wants to participate in it.
Yep.
What do? They squash it immediately because they realize how dangerous that is to the host that they are a parasite of.
Yep. And they tell them, wait your turn.
Right.
You get in,
Yeah.
get in line, take a number. Oh, it's not. This is not your time. This is so and so's time. What does that?
Real quick, and here's the other thing. Okay, I love party unity. Okay, of course primaries always kind of put some wake in the water, but that's what Steny Hoyer is saying.
Oh,
Look,
absolutely.
don't be the guy. Unity. Okay, the day after these people took me to court, they're saying it to this progressive guy in Colorado while he's still in the election, while Hoyer's saying that I'm going to flood the market with money to make sure you don't have a shot. He's asking for party unity.
Let's back up 4 years ago in the gubernatorial election. Larry Hogan versus Kenny Ullman as the Democratic nominee for governor.
Republican.
No.
Oh, right.
Yeah, the former Howard County executive.
Right.
But the Democratic Party said no. It's Anthony's turn.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Yep.
How do you think that would have shaped? I guarantee you right now that Ullman would be up for re-election.
I think you're probably right about that.
Mhm.
That's Ed Hale Jr. along with Justin Kinsey, Tyron Keys, I'm Jimmy Mathis. Quick break, we'll be right back. It is 7:40. You're listening to the Jimmy Mathis Show on Talk Radio 680 WCBM.
Hold on 1 second.